A quiet, intelligent student, a disruptive dormmate, and a night of terror that would change everyone's lives forever. Are you sure you're ready for my retelling of the classic urban legend, Keep Them Off? Emily had always been a hardworking student. She'd spent countless hours studying, perfecting her 4.0 GPA and preparing for college. When she finally received her acceptance letter to her dream school, she felt as if all of her hard work had paid off. She was excited to begin her journey and to see where college would take her, but as excited as she was also nervous. Emily had always been a shy and introverted person, and the thought of making new friends and adjusting to college life was daunting. However, she was determined to make the most of her time at school and hoped that she would be able to find a community of like-minded individuals who shared her passion for academics and learning. When it came time for dorm assignments to be announced, Emily was thrilled to learn that she'd been placed in one of the newer residence halls on campus. She eagerly anticipated meeting her dorm mate, hoping that they would get along well and be able to support each other throughout the ups and downs of college life. However, when Emily arrived at her new dorm room, she was shocked to find that she had been paired with a girl named Madison, who was outgoing and gregarious, the type of person who always had a new friend or a romantic partner around every corner. Emily felt like she had nothing in common with Madison and found herself constantly feeling like an outsider, with Madison's constant chatter and laughter only serving to make her feel more isolated. And though Emily tried her best to be friendly and open-minded, it was exceedingly difficult. As days turned into months, Emily started to notice that Madison's behavior was becoming more and more disruptive. And every night, Madison would return to the dorm room with a different partner, with the sounds of their physical passions reverberating through the thin walls. Incidentally, Emily found it almost impossible to sleep or study, and she quickly became exhausted and irritable. She tried to talk to Madison about the noise, but Madison simply brushed her off and continued to bring new flings back to the dorm room every night. Emily felt like there was no escape from the constant noise and a growing sense of being an outsider. As time went on, Emily's frustrations with Madison grew, and she found it difficult to concentrate on her studies and began to feel like she was constantly on the edge. She longed for some peace and quiet, but it seemed like that was something that would never be within her grasp. To make matters worse, one night, Emily accidentally turned on the lights in the middle of the night to find Madison in the act with one such partner, resulting in Madison immediately yelling for her to turn off the lights or leave the room, which left Emily feeling all the more isolated and alone. The next day, Emily decided to talk to her resident advisor about the situation. She explained how difficult it was to live with someone who was so inconsiderate and how she was finding it difficult to sleep and focus on her schooling. This resident advisor listened attentively and promised to talk to Madison about the situation, but things were so pushed out. The situation only seemed to worsen after that. Madison became increasingly hostile and distant towards Emily. She stopped speaking to her altogether and began to bring her partners back to the dorm room on an even more frequent basis, with the sounds of their lovemaking becoming louder and more intense, and Emily finding herself feeling more off balance than ever before. On one such night, Emily decided to try to confront Madison about the situation once and for all. She knocked on the door to their dorm room and waited for Madison to answer, but when Madison finally opened the door, she was furious. "What do you want?" Madison hissed, glaring at Emily while motioning to a moving lump under her covers. "Can't you see that I'm busy?" Emily tried to explain how difficult it was to live with her, how she was struggling to focus on her education, and how she was at her wits' end with the constant commotion. But Madison simply laughed in her face. "You think you're better than me because you get good grades?" Madison sneered. "You're just a loser who can't handle a little bit of fun. Why don't you just go back to your books and leave me alone?" Emily felt tears welling up in her eyes. She turned and ran as far away from the room as possible, shaking with anxiety as she tried to contemplate the next best move. Later that night, Emily was awakened once again by the sounds of Madison and a partner. She tossed and turned in bed, trying to block out the noise, but it was considerably louder and more aggressive than any other night before. She considered turning on the lights to try and shame Madison into stopping, but she knew this would only lead to more conflict. Instead, she decided to put in her headphones and listen to some music. She closed her eyes and tried to block out the sounds that were still audible even over her tunes at full volume, and eventually succumbed to slumber. But it wasn't until the next morning that Emily realized something was very wrong. She woke up to the sound of silence. There was no noise coming from Madison's side of the room. No snoring, no sounds of brewing coffee, not even a peep. She sat up in bed and looked over to find Madison's bed empty. And that's when she saw Madison's body sprawled across the floor, her limbs twisted at unnatural angles, multiple knife cuts to her torso, and a grimace of pain and fear upon her lifeless face. Then she noticed a chilling message on the wall. Written in blood, it read, "Aren't you glad you didn't turn on the lights?" Thanks for joining me for my version of the classic tale, Keep Them Off. If you enjoyed listening to this diabolical diatribe, subscribe to my channel, like this upload, and share me with anyone you think could use a good scare. Pleasant dreams.